Hello readers and writers, I'm MJ and let's talk about queer science fiction fantasy releases for 2024. So I have a list of 10 fantasy and science fiction books that are releasing in 2024. These are all books that I personally am excited for. There obviously are more releasing. Some are part of series that I haven't read yet, and some are just a little bit more on the romance side than I personally think I'm interested in. And I specifically wanted to feature queer science fiction and fantasy because I mean, that's kind of what my channel is all about. So most of these books are traditionally published because those are the ones that are easier to get release dates for in advance. But stay tuned through my channel throughout the year because I do feature a lot of indie authors, specifically indie science fiction and fantasy, and even more specifically queer indie sci-fi fantasy. So if you're interested in this kind of content, please, subscribe and like and stick with me because this is my favorite genre also. Alright, so most of these books are going to be adult. However, there are a few that are not because they're exceptions for my personal taste. And so the first one is one of those exceptions, and that is Mislaid in Paris Half Known. And this is the 9th book in the Wayward Children series by Seanan McGuire. And technically this book I think is YA or middle grade, but it reads very applicable across age groups. As an adult, I really enjoy this series, and this is one of the ones I do collect in hardback. So I'm really excited for the next volume in the Wayward Children series. I think it might be due for a reread of the entire series before this book comes out. We will see how that goes because this one's actually releasing in the beginning part of the year, January 9th. And so if you have not started the Wayward Children series, I would definitely suggest that you start at the first book, because although each book features a different child and they usually connect to the broader world in some way, and just starting from the first book I think is the best way to get that experience. However, I started from like the 4th book and then went back and read the original books, so it is possible, but a lot of things clicked into place and made more sense once I read them in order. So if you aren't caught up, I definitely suggest you start at the first book because 9 is a long way into the series, and the description itself may not make a whole lot of sense. But this book is about Ansi, and they're the latest student to pass through the doors at Eleanor's West School for Wayward Children. When her fellow students realize that Ansi's talent for finding absolutely anything may extend to doors, she's forced to flee in the company of a small group of friends looking for a way back to the shop where the lost things go, sure that Vanita and Hudson are keeping their promise. Along the way, temptations are dangled, decisions are reinforced, and a departure to a world populated by dinosaurs brings untold dangers and one or two other surprises. So, I'm all here for that. Within the series itself, there's queer rep, there's trans queer rep, there's intersex queer, there's intersex rep, and then there's it's just a very diverse group of children that make their way to these doors. And number 2 on this list is another exception. This is a YA book by Kacen Callender, and this is the author that wrote Felix Ever After. This is a very YA book, but in terms of my own trans identity, it was very impactful because there's just not a lot of trans rep in adult fiction, especially like transitionary trans rep, which I personally am trying to change, but sometimes we still have to go, but traditionally publishing is not really trying to change that all that well. But Kacen Callender is a great author, so I was very excited to see that they're actually doing a debut fantasy novel. And so this is being published by Tor Publishing Group, and it's due to come out on February 6th. Which is one of my kids' birthdays. So for Ashwood, practicing alchemy is a crime. Only an elite few are legally permitted to study the science of magic, so when Ash is rejected by Lancaster College of Academic Science, he takes a job as the school's groundskeeper instead, forced to learn alchemy in secret. When he's discovered by the condescending and brilliant apprentice Ramsay Thorne, Ash is sure he's about to be arrested. But instead of calling the Reds, Ramsay surprised Ash by making him an offer. Ramsay will keep Ash's secret if he helps her find the legendary Book of Source, a sacred text that gives its reader extraordinary power. As Ash and Ramsay work together and their feelings for each other grow, Ash discovers their mission is more dangerous than he imagined, putting them against influential and powerful alchemists, Ash's estranged father included. Ash's journey takes him through the cities and wilds across New Anglia, forcing him to discover his own definition of true power and how far he and other alchemists will go to seize it. Featuring trans, queer, and polyamorous characters of colors, Infinite Alchemist is the highly anticipated young adult fantasy debut from the extraordinary author of Felix Ever After, King of the Dragonflies, Queen of the Conquered, and more. So yeah, very, very excited for this book to come out, even though it's YA. But I think from here on out, everything on my list is adult fiction. Because that tends to be more what I prefer to read. So the next book is due to come out on February 27th. And I should have said this earlier, but since these all our release dates are in the future, they are subject to change, and you should definitely check with the books and the publishers to see the most up-to-date release dates for these books, especially the further out we go into the year, the more likely they are to be adjusted. Alright, so the next book is Red Sight. It is due to publish the 27th of February, and it's being published by Rebellion, which is part of Solaris. An imaginative new space opera for fans of Gideon the Ninth, filled with sapphic romance, space pirates, a blind witch, and powerful priestess. Karina has simple priorities: stay on the Navites, stay out of trouble, and stay alive. She may be a red seer, a blind priestess with the power to manipulate space-time, but she is the weakest in her order, useless and outcast, or so she's been raised to believe. As she takes her place as a navigator on an Imperium ship, Karina's full destiny is revealed to her. Blood brimming with magic, she is meant to become a weapon of the Imperium and pawn for the order that raised her. But when the ship is attacked by the notorious pirate Aster Heron, Karina's world is ripped apart. Aster has a vendetta against the Imperium and an all-consuming dark power that drives her to destroy everything in her path. She understands the world in a way Karina has never imagined, and Karina is drawn to her against her better judgment. With the Imperium and the justice-seeking warrior Sahar hot on her heels, Karina must choose her side, seize her power, and fulfill her destiny, or risk imperializing the future of the galaxy and destroy the fabric of space-time itself. What has captured me about this is obviously, it seems like very dark space opera that is queer, but adult specifically, which is excellent, and I did double check that it is adults because I wasn't sure, especially when it's being compared to Gideon the Ninth, and it just looks like it sounds like a really great read, so I'm really excited to pick this one up, even though I have not read anything by Meredith Mooring before. So the next book on our list is Welcome to Forever by Nathan Tavares, and this is due out March 5th. And it's going to be published by Titan Books. So this is a sweeping psychedelic romance of two men caught in a looping world of artificial realities, edited memories, secretive cabals, and conspiracies to push humanity to the next step in its evolution. For fans of Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, Ubik and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind in Evangeline, Fox is a memory editor, one of the best, gifted with the skill to create real life in the digital world. When he wakes up in the field of Reed Center for Memory Reconstruction with no idea of how he got there, the therapists tell him he was a victim in a terrorist bombing by Kahaja Banks, the pioneer of memory editing technology turned revolutionary. A bombing which shredded the memory archives of all its victims, including his husband, Gabe. Thrust into reconstructions of his memories, exploded from the fragments that survived the blast, Fox tries to rebuild his life, his marriage, and himself, but he quickly realizes his world is changing, unreliable, and echoing around itself over and over. As he unearths endless cycles of meeting Gabe, falling in love, and breaking up, Fox digs deep into his past, his time in the refugee nation of Aru, and the exact nature of his relationship with Kahaja. Because in a world tearing itself apart to forget all its sadness, saving the man he loves might be the key to saving us all. This just sounds epic. Like, very, very awesome sci-fi, with queer rep. I really like this concept of playing with time and the how unreliable our memories are, because that's actually very valid, and it just sounds like it's going to be a very epic read, so I'm very excited to be picking this one up. And fifth on my list is These Fragile Graces and This Fugitive Heart by Izzy Wasserstein, and this is due out March 12th, 2024 by Tachyon Publications. So this potentially is a little bit more horror sci-fi, it looks like. In the mid-21st century, Kansas City Dora hasn't been back to her old commune in years, but when Dora's ex-girlfriend, Kay, is killed and everyone at the commune is a potential suspect, Dora knows that she's the only person who can solve the murder. As Dora is dragged back into her old community and begins her investigation, she discovers that Kay's death is only one of several terrible incidents. A strange new drug is circulating, people are disappearing, and Dora is being attacked by assailants from her pre-transition past. Meanwhile, it seems like a war between two nefarious corporations is looming, and Dora's old neighborhood is their battleground. Now, she must uncover a twisted conspiracy, all by navigating a deeply meaningful new relationship. So this looks a little more thriller sci-fi, actually, but I get where the horror potentially is coming from if you're talking about commune, and it might get a little dark. But I like that it is a story about trans representation. The cover almost put me off of it, I'm not gonna lie, but you say don't judge a book by its cover, and I'm really excited to see how this one goes. I think it'll be a little different of a read for me, but still being queer sci-fi, so I think it's good that it is a little different. Book number 6 is The Mars House by Natasha Pulley. And this is due out March 19th by Bloomsbury USA, which is a part of Bloomsbury Publishing. A compulsory readable queer sci-fi novel about a marriage of convenience between a Mars politician and an Earth refugee. In the wake of an environmental catastrophe, January, once a principal in London's Royal Ballet, has become a refugee in Tharsis, the transformed colony on Mars. There, January's life is dedicated to his status as an Earth Stronger, a person whose body is not adjusted to lower gravity, and so poses a danger to those born on or neutralized to Mars. January's job choices, housing, and even transportation are dictated by the second-class status, and now a xenophobic politician named Aubrey Gell is running on a platform that would make it all worse. Gell wants an Earth Strongers to naturalize, a process that is always disabling and sometimes deadly. When Gell chooses January for an on-the-spot press junket interview that goes horribly awry, January's life is thrown into chaos, but Gell's political fortunes are damaged too. Gell proposes a solution to both their problems, a 5-year made-for-the-press marriage that would secure January's future without naturalization and ensure Gell's political success. But when January accepts the offer, he discovers that Gell is not all like they appear in the press. They're kind, compassionate, and much more difficult to hate than January would prefer. As a romantic relationship develops, the political situation worsens, and January discovers that Gell has an enemy, someone willing to destroy all of Tharsis to make them pay, and January may be the only person standing in the way. Unputdownable, immersive, and utterly timely, Natasha Pulley's new novel is a gripping story about privilege, strength, and life across class division, perfect for readers of Sarah Gailey and Tamsin Muir. So I really picked this up because I did compare it to Sarah Gailey, but going through, I hope it's not actually a problematic read, because when you have a very problematic political figure that, oh, they're just so good on the inside and they're redeemable if they just have the right love, This may not be written in today's standards, but if you put it in today's standards, then it can become really problematic. So I do have this for an ARC review, so I will be reading it, and hopefully, I mean, it could go either way. Hopefully, I don't know, the description has me a little bit concerned, but we'll see how it goes. Book 7 is Moondust in My Hairnet by J.R. Cretan. This releases April 19th, 2024. This is being released by Mythic Roads Press, which is an indie book publisher. So I'm excited that there was a release date, and not far out, too. 20-year-old Lane was perfectly happy living in her big sister's shadow. The great Faraday Tanner, who invented the grave drive and inspired the movement to found the moon's first independent colony, was the unequaled voice of the post-melt generation. That is, until an unimaginable tragedy cut Faraday's legacy short. Wrecked with survivor's guilt, Lane embraces her job on the moon lunch lady, which is more than her parents think she can handle. Her boyfriend's supportive, at least, when he's not drooling over one of the new recruits. Lane tries to put her past behind her, committed to enjoying her kitchen work and dating her boyfriend and his new crushes. She even participates in planning Faraday's memorial, forcing herself to grapple with monumental loss. But when the colony goods go missing and vital equipment gets tampered with, Lane must band together with new and old friends to find a culprit and save her sister's dream. So what the description doesn't say is that Lane is actually autistic. So this is has autism rep in it. Also, I'm not entirely sure where the queer part comes in, so we will find that as but yeah, I saw the autism rep and jumped on it because absolutely. Alright, number 8 is Snowbound by Emma Sterner Bradley. This is due to release May 9th. And being published by Solaris. Okay, so this was being compared to The Princess Bride meets Six of Crows, which is an interesting combination in my opinion. So Valor and Petrichor are esteemed members of the Order of Axton, an assassin's guild tasked with keeping order in the rough cities of Vinderstock. Plucked from the streets as children and raised to complete for their guild's approval, Valor uses her brawn to survive, where Practor strives to be a gentleman's assassin. When they're given their biggest job yet, to kill Brandquist, the mysterious leader of the city's illegal magic trade, it's a recipe for disaster. If they can quell the rivalry long enough, the reward will be enough to settle their debts with the Order and start new lives. If this job wasn't dangerous enough, Valor is saddled with protecting the aristocrat Indrid Ryderdahl. Valor finds her dangerously attractive, but Pector can't wait to be rid of them both. He begrudgingly accepts Indrid's knowledge and connections as they navigate the city's criminal underbelly in pursuit of Bratterquest. As secrets bubble to the surface, the duo must outwit the thugs on their tail, keep Indrid alive, and hardest of all, work together without murdering each other. So, yeah, I'm not entirely sure how this one's gonna go, but it definitely sounds like it is a trip. It's probably the last one I added to the list to make it a nice round 10. But I don't know, I think it could be really good. I think I could really enjoy it. So we'll find out. Number 9 on the list is one I probably am not going to personally pick up because it might just be a little bit too romantic-y for me, but it's one I wanted to include because I thought a lot of people would enjoy it, and that is The Honey Witch by Sydney J. Shields, and it releases on May 14th by Red Hook Books. And let's see, so 21-year-old Marigold Claude has always preferred the company of the spirits of the meadow to any of the suitors who try to woo her. So when her grandmother whisks her away to the family cottage on a tiny isle of Innisfree with an offer to train her as the next Honey Witch, she accepts immediately. But her newfound magic and independence come with a price. No one can fall in love with the Honey Witch. When Lodi Berkeley, a nefariously grumpy skeptic who doesn't believe in magic, shows up on her doorstep, Marigold can't resist the challenge to prove her that magic is real. But soon Marigold begins to care for Lottie in ways she never expected, and when darker magic awakens and threatens to destroy her home, she might fight for much more than her new home, at the risk of losing her magic and her heart. So, like, I don't know. I'm on the fence about whether I'm going to end up picking it up or not. We will see. And the last book, the great capstone of this book, or of this list, is Mirrored Heavens by Rebecca Roanhorse. And I'm a huge Rebecca Roanhorse fan. This is the third book in the, the Between Earth and Sky trilogy. And I've read the first book, and I plan on rereading the first book and the second book, which I own. And now definitely need to do that because this one's coming out on June 4th by Saga Press. So this is actually the conclusion. So it's going to be a trilogy. And so if you haven't read Dark Sun, then I highly recommend that you do that first, and then the second book, I can't remember the name of the second book on here, but basically it is I don't know, I guess I'll just read the description because I'm not doing a very good job talking about it. So this book is Serepto, avatar of the Crow God Reborn and newly crowned Carrion King, rules Tova, but his enemies gather both on distant shores and within his own city as the matrons of the clowns scheme to destroy him. And deep in the alleys of Ma, a deep prophecy is whispered, this one from the Coyote God. It promises Serepto certain doom if his terrible dictates are not fulfilled. Meanwhile, Xalia is thrust back amongst her people as war comes first to the island of Take. With their way of life and their magic under threat, she is their last best hope. But the sea won't talk to her the way it used to, and doubts riddle her mind. She will have to sacrifice the things that matter most to unleash her powers and become the queen they were promised. And in the far north, wasteland Nerpoa, avatar of the sun god, seeks a way to save Tova from the visions of fire that engulf her dreams. But another presence has begun stalking her nightmares, and the jaguar god is on the hunt. So those are 10 queer sci-fi and fantasy books releasing in 2024. Obviously there's going to be more books, and I do plan on still doing either quarterly or trimesterly released videos that will do more than just queer sci-fi, but this is really what I wanted to focus on as I start off the year. So the last release date we have is in June, so there's still a whole bunch of time in the year after that for releases to come out. So I probably will be doing another one mid-year specifically focusing on queer sci-fi and fantasy. On that note, releasing this year, I have these 3 queer sci-fi fantasy books out already, but coming in 2024, I plan on releasing a 4-book series. All 4 books may not be released in 2024. My current plan right now is the first 3, but the first book, Lucas, has a tentative release date, like April, probably, and then Phoenix will be released, has a tentative release date of like June or July. So those are 2 books that I have set to release. They're not available for pre-order or yet, but if you want more information on them, make sure to follow me on my social medias. They are they're a companion series where each book will feature a different main character. So the first book is about Lucas, a trans man who arrives at Eden hoping to find himself and reconnect to his past, but things don't go as planned when he is turned into a vampire. Now he's stuck in a body that he doesn't want for all of eternity. And so beta readers for Lucas will be available shortly, actually within probably about a month, I think, or a month and a half. So if you're interested, you can connect to my Discord, which is linked in my link tree below, or on my social media platforms. And then the second book is about Phoenix, the heir to the local werewolf pack, except her father doesn't think she is capable of leading because she is autistic. Determined to prove him wrong, Phoenix makes a deal with the local vampires. She will hunt down one of the rogue members and get her father to relinquish his council seat, and they will not destroy the balance of power that has existed in Eden since the treaty was first signed. So I have 2 other books planned, but they're not to the point where I can announce them yet. So yeah, so great things planned on my end also for queer fantasy. So it's going to be a great year. 2024 is going to be full of great reading. So I'm glad you're going to be joining me for it. As always, keep reading, keep writing, and until next time.